أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين وبه نستعين وهو خير الناصر ومعين، ثم الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الخلق الذي سمي في السماء بأحمد وفي الأرضين بأبي القاسم المصطفى محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المنتجبين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. Respected وعلى أصحابهم الغر الميامين واللعن الدائم على أعدائهم أجمعين من الآن إلى قيام يوم الدين. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. Respected brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. We invite you again on another series of After the Massacre. This time with our beloved scholar and brother, Sheikh Ja'far, who will be discussing the topic of Azadari with Allah. He'll explain what it is. But today, you join us on the eve of the martyrdom of Imam Al-Hassan alayhi afdal salatu wasalam, our second Imam, the Imam who really is oppressed in his life and oppressed after his life. Never had a easy life. Yes, we know the hadith that he was very affluent, wore the best clothes of time and whatnot, but never had an easy life. One walks past him and says, Assalamu alaikum ya mudhill al-mu'min. Peace be upon you, O the one who discredits the believers. Shia, says in the Imam. One comes and says, when he passes away, his Nazar is shot with arrows. And then today, all the other graves are built up, along with Imam Ja'far, Imam Sajjad, and Imam Al-Baqir in Jannatul Baqi'. Ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to help us witness the rebuilding, the refurbishing of Jannatul Baqi'. Allah ta'ala. Now, without any further ado, we will hand over to our guests for today, our beloved Sheikh Ja'far Ditlopo, Mlangeni, inshallah. Just waiting for him. But Ditlopo, Bismillah. It's his first time speaking more Zoom, so we can forgive him ever in the pandemic. These are people who are not bothered by the pandemic. Alhamdulillah, Ya Allah. Beautiful background, man. MashaAllah. Marana sound. You have to join. Nasir, try it. There you go. ايش اكيد زسان يا خوي رانجو ننزل زر
Salam alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. No, mashallah. Now it's clear. Thank you. تفضل. Without any further ado, تفضل إن شاء الله. Bless us. We are at your mercy بفضل الصلاة على محمد وآل محمد.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. Awusemuhle mfowethu.
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alamin. Ar-Rahmanir Rahim. Maliki Yawmiddin. والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين حبيب إله العالمين القاسم المصطفى محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد وأهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين سيما في الأرضين ولعنة الله من أعدائهم إلى يوم هذا وإلى يوم الدين. أما بعد, first and foremost, Nkarata udumedisa donabo botlemo idumedise baruti ba rona ke dumedise bagolo ba leng teng dumedise bomme le bontate dumedise le batjha ka tumediso e le reng re rutiwe ke moeteledipele wa rona Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Atumediso eo e leng assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Now, nka rata hore re lebohe Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for this moment, for this chance ya bophelo bo lo reng bo tswa ho Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala o re file tšhono gape hore re iteke ka matshelo a rona hore re tlo kgona ho finyella destiny ya rona or our own purpose re le batho. Purpose eo e leng ho worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and hape le ho ikatumetsa ho yena. Now inshallah, the topic of today inshallah is a topic which I somehow, when I decided on this topic, I was very curious about some certain aspects that goes along with Azadari. Azadari, what does it really mean to us? And that is a question illustrates my curiosity around this topic of the word Azadari, or the whole concept of Azadari. So when I asked myself about Azadari, Kilaga check a little bit of research, I get into Google and try to look at what Azadari is. And when I got into it, that's when I saw a lot of packages that has to do with Azadari, because Azadari, it's about mourning, but yet there are other elements which are involved within the issue of Azadari. Inshallah, because there is a lot of noise. Let me just take it out. All right. Now, the issue of Azadari, the importance of it, the questioning of it for each and every individual, especially when something is being packaged for you and it's been brought in front of you in the name of Islam. And then that's when we need to start asking questions. What is this? What is this that you are giving me? So, and then you need to evaluate the very same thing that you are giving. And we will evaluate it by using the the teachings or Islam, which is our sources, which is the Quran and Ahlul-Bayt. Now, whenever someone comes and say, this is Azadari, we mourn for Imam Hussein like this, and then this is called Azadari, then you need to start questioning, what is Azadari, and then what does it mean to me, and how is it relative to me, and then how do I use it for my own benefit? And then those are the questions whenever I ask them about Azadari. So the question again says, what is Azadari? What does it mean to me? Currently, I don't know, or probably it means nothing to me. Why I say that is because of it comes with a lot of packages, and other packages in the traditions of Islam or traditions of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and along with the Ahlul-Bayt, and also or the customs they were adopted into this whole package as Azadari, and then it was brought to us in our hands, and then we accepted all of it to a point where we thought, for this type of practice for mourning for Imam Hussein, it is an Islamic tenet. So now that's where we need to question about this issue of Azadari. First, the word Azadari. You know, when you go outside, I mean, come on, it's gonna be a very strange. It's gonna be very strange. Or what is that? What do you mean? So what language is that? So now, when we want to understand the mourning for Imam Hussein, it's a very important act. We were encouraged by Ahlul-Bayt or and therefore, using this act, we need to use it in such a way that it will develop and revive Islam in our community and revive the love of Ahlul-Bayt in our hearts. And this act of mourning for Imam Hussein, it's the greatest act, which it's narrated in many ahadith that whenever you even you drop a single tear for Imam Hussein, and then paradise is guaranteed for you. Going even further, that even evidences is that one, Imam al-Hussein was mourned immediately after his death. And then how did the caravan of Imam Hussein started mourning? Because those were the first people to receive the incident of the death of Imam Hussein. So ke bona batho ba loreng o tlamehile ba latele and re bona hore ke tsela e feng ba e latela ya mona for Imam Hussein, and which one which they encouraged and then re latele yona, and then ke yona tsela e loreng e tla ba a basis for our act of mourning for Imam Hussein. Now, we know of the fact that the caravan of Imam Hussein was led by Bibi Zainab Salamullahi alayha, and the whole caravan were not given a proper place and time to adequately mourn for Imam Hussein. So they were jailed, and then there was a time when they were put in front of the ruler, which was Yazid. Or now they need to answer as if they are in court. They need to answer for their crimes and all of that. But we know of the incident after Zainab Salamullah alayha delivered her lectures or delivered her sermons, or she presented her case in such a way that it started making people to question about the Ahlul-Bayt. So now, when they were given Yazid the first incident in Damascus is that Bibi Zainab Salamullahi alayha, she started a majlis. She started a majlis of Imam Hussein. And then in that majlis, she told people about what happened. Go Karbala, Ashura. So that now it forms a basis for our ways. One is majlis, which is emphasized, which is also encouraged by Ahlul-Bayt, because we have another numerous hadith that confirm this. That Imam Ja'far, there was a time when he asked one of his companions, he said, do you usually sit and revive our matters? Ladula na libuwe ka rona moleleng teng, libuwe ka di tsa etseng. Because tulo e tshwanang le ke tulo tse lo reng ke a di rata, ke tulo tse lo reng modimo o di entseng o di hlonolofaditse. So therefore, based on those ahadith, now we can see that the majlis is something that is highly emphasized by Ahlul-Bayt. So that forms the basis for our actions. Adopted, coming directly from Ahlul-Bayt, in order for you to Imam Hussein. 2, poetry, or they call it muhat. These traditions of poetry is also one of the things that really highly emphasized. Zainul Abidin, Imam Zainul Abidin, used to call his companion, one of the greatest poets during his time. He used to call him and said, can you recite a poetry about Imam Hussein for me? And then whenever they recited, and then he would cry. So also that Imams of Ahlul-Bayt encouraged us for writing the poetry, the elegies, tailoring, the Tusa, for Imam Hussein and the companions of Hussein. Another one is the tradition of clothes. This is one of the most controversial ones. Usually, most of the people think we should wear black in the month of Muharram. Is that something that the follower or the Ahlul-Bayt encouraged us to do, or is that The same thing, or is that something each? So usually people, they base it on this tradition. There was a time when the first majalis of Imam al-Hussein, which happened in Damascus, there were women who came to offer their condolences. And then Batleba Bere, the Aparatolorin, Zainab, Azang Adi, the Muhatlis. Coronelli Aparatol expensive, Nilja Aparatol, and Coroneva Parenzo or Rebato. So Zainab told them, he said, if little Alton Sidisa, I said, our little Sidisa. Yawa, I said, our part of little Sidisa. And then they said immediately those women went back to their homes, and then Bilaba Para, the Aporoteba, the Aparambasha, Siba Pari, Siba Piri, the Aporotebe. And then immediately that's when the people base their argument, or no, because those women went and came back wearing black. And Islam highly emphasized women or Bapare and the Aparotebe, regardless of whether they are mourning or they are not mourning. But now the question is this a tradition of Ahlul-Bayt? Now that's something that we need to think of. Because if this was a tradition of Ahlul-Bayt, because Mafukin Cholo lived later, especially in the time of the Prophet, because Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, during his time, there were a lot of battles. He lost a lot of friends. He lost a lot of family members, you know. And then around those times, and then you would see a lot of narration coming and narrating about how we should wear whenever we are mourning. Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam lost even children. Did he mourn for them by wearing black? Is there a tradition that confirms this? We don't know. I have never seen it. Nobody has presented it to us. But anyway, inshallah, but this is in highlight. Is one of the things that are not evident in the traditions of Ahlul-Bayt or Kipati at all. So, until how mona for Imam for Ahlul-Bayt or how mona in general. According to the tradition, simple because they were coming wearing very expensive clothes, and then as they say today, they were draping. So they were very expensive, and they were maybe tradition, the women of Damascus, or whenever we go to we need to show up and show off. So somehow that tradition, it was abolished when it comes to mourning in general, according to Ahlul-Bayt, especially mourning for Imam Hussein. So wearing of black clothes is something illuring. It's questionable. Now, two, another one is that the beginning of Muharram, do we start mourning or do we start, preparing for Muharram or preparing for Ashura from the beginning of Muharram? Do we start feeling the sadness in the beginning of the month of Muharram, or is that also something in Chela Electrotus? No, it was not. This is something even Ahlul-Bayt used to practice. It is said Zainul Abidin, whenever he saw the moon of Muharram, and then it's at a holiday, Kimona Kala, Barana Toma who grieve for Imam Hussein. Kore itomile kore kiana ola itoma this tradition. Whenever it is the beginning of the month of Muharram, or the beginning of the year of the Islamic calendar, we should start mourning on the first day of Muharram. So these are the traditions, and then these form a base of our way. One, we said, is that majalis is not something that is bid'ah. It's something that was highly emphasized by Ahlul-Bayt. Number two is that poetry and recitals and eulogies, we remind each other about what happened in Karbala, and also the mourning from the first day of the month of Muharram is one of the things they are also encouraged, and they were evident in traditions and also in history. And then also the clothing, based on the tradition or the historical narration of the Zainab, is that we should wear simple clothes, because you might wear black and very expensive and born. Even wearing black. Mourning is that we should wear simple clothing. Now, coming to this issue, packaged with this issue, mourning for Imam Hussein. The traditions, among them, first we need to understand that the word Azadari it's a Persian word. It's not an Arabic word. It's not derived from Arabic. It's a Persian word meaning mourning and lamentation, Azadari. And then it's usually a word that is being promoted. Whenever you speak about Muharram, you speak about Imam Hussein, you hear Azadari. So we need to question that labeling the event of Imam al-Hussein is also very important. This word Azadari, it is relatable to people who are from Asia or who are Iranians. It's their word. Whenever they say Azhar or Azadari, they know what they mean. But when you say Azadari to when I say to you, you don't know what it means. So what does it really mean to you? Now we are coming to a point where we are now questioning certain actions that are surrounded by that are practiced within the mourning for Imam Hussein. One is matam. Matam, what is matam? Usually people, they ascribe matam with practice mourning for Imam Hussein. So even Rona Selimu Kubalu is what does it mean? Is it a way? Is that Kitila Eloring in a lateral Ahlul-Bayt? Kitila Lorenek, push Nini, encourage Ahlul-Bayt. But no, we don't find it anywhere. Actually, people who are trying to ascribe matam with women who are crying, wailing, beating their heads, beating their chest. Usually, they are trying to justify matam. And first, matam is not even an Arabian way. It's not even a Persian word. Actually, it's a word that comes from India. Mata. What does it mean? In Indian language, it means mourning. The same as Azadari. So whenever Pakistani or my Indian, they say Matam Padna, meaning mourning for the dead. Matam Padna, a word which they use if they want to say mourning for we are mourning for the day. Matam partner, meaning mourning and matam is the same thing. Now, this matam, how did it come into the traditions of Islam? And then how it came into be something, it's become a practice, the mourning for Imam Hussein. Matam was introduced by a scholar, Sayyid Ali Nasirabadi. Yeah, Nasirabadi. This is a scholar who lived in India, who originally come from Iran, Nishapur, who his family Ilabalea during the Mongolian invasion of Eastern countries. So they ran away and went to India, like his great-grandparents. Then they stayed there in India and they grew up in India, and then he was born in India and he studied in India and also in Qom and other countries, in other countries. Not Qom, actually, in Iraq. So this person came with this matter. I wanna because it's in his tongue. And then he introduced it to the Persian during the dynasty of Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ala Muhammad, Safavid, the Safavid dynasty. That was the time when he introduced. Probably he saw people beating their chest whenever they were singing and lamenting for their dead people or and then he introduced this practice go Iran during the Safavid dynasty. Now, when was it introduced? In the 12th century. So it happened during the time of Imam Hussein. Now, people when they say matam that we see and the matam that or the striking of your head or your chest or your thighs, it is striking out of reaction of grief. For instance, if someone it is not something why contemplate ability or so it is out of reaction because of grief, shock of grief. Then people used to beat up. So the matter that it's rhythmic, and then it's contemplated. It's like there's a whole lot of planning around it. It's not something it happens because of an instant reaction out of grief. Now, another one is takbir or bloodletting or flagellating. It has caused a lot of controversy among the Maraji scholars, race, among tribes, among all of those things. So this practice, it's another practice, it's an old practice, it was adopted into Shia Islam on the 15th and 16th century, even during the time or before the time of Safavid dynasty. Who introduced this type of dynasty into Islam? I know for a fact into in Roman. Usually Romans, when they were parading the streets, the monks parading the streets during Easter, they used to beat themselves. Jesus. So that is a practice thing. It's even date back to BC actually. Back in China, there was when a king was named Tokofala, they used to people who were close to the king or his subjects, who are his lovers, those who were very nice and by kata mo ditlhogong, by kata mo maetseng, by kata ditsebe, by kuta meriri, dilonyana tse. So ke di-practice tse loreng gale di le teng. But who introduced this type of practice into Islam? It is said it was introduced by a tribe or an order or a ideologies that are called Qizilbash. Qizilbash is they call it a tribe that comes from Turkey. It was very instrumental in helping the Safavid dynasty who were in power in Iraq. They were very instrumental in terms of supporting them militarily, about this type of dynasty and mobilizing people for this dynasty. So this tribe or this ideology, who introduced this type of practice in Islam, which is the chain, which is called Tatbir, which has caused a lot of controversy. Some scholars or some Maraji, they agree with it. Some Marajis, they don't agree with it. Some say this is something that is bidah, or that is something that is evil in their eyes, or something that is not even allowed or haram to do. Some say it is allowed to do. Some say even it is mustahab to do it. So this tribe comes from Turkey, and then their sheikh or their founder or their leader used to practice spirituality and mysticism, and most of their practice of mysticism they adopted it from Christianity. So it is not somehow if someone was practicing a certain ideology that he adopted from Christianity, and then he brings actions like this that are also linked to Christianity. So it makes sense or why it came into Islam. Now, and another one is ta'ziyah. These are prominent practice of mourning for Islam that are known in the world. Whenever you speak about Muharram, these practices are also part of Muharram. Adopt those practices into their own culture and emulate those practices into their own culture. And then but yet we know that these are or these are other nations, and then how they came into give a part of mourning for Imam Hussein. The other one is called ta'ziyah theater. They call it comfort. It's come from the word azar. It's called comfort for mourning. It is said it was introduced during the dynasty of Boyid dynasty. They used to commemorate the tragedy of. They used to one of the sheikh. The book was called Shahnameh. So these were stories tailoring. They were narrated in theaters, in theater performing, and they used to do this theater performing to mourn for Sayawash. Sayawash was a prince of Iran during the time of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and then they said he was killed. It's not justice and all of that, and therefore it is been something it's been practiced all these years. And the book it's called the Book of Kings, and then this theater type of mourning was introduced in the 15th century. 15th century by the Boyid dynasty. Before the what you call it, a Safavid dynasty. Now, another one, inshallah, it's called Rauda. Khawni, Khawani, Rauda Khawani, or reading of gardens. This is the one, it's highly emphasized. Even if you don't do it in the majalis, it's as if you have not done the majalis of Imam Hussein. Which one is that? We call it, sometimes we call it Massacre, but the Iranians, they call it Rauda Khawani or Khawani. So it is called reading of gardens. It was introduced during the time of the Safavid dynasty, and then it was taken from a book written by a Sunni scholar who is a Muturudi scholar and a poet. Kamal al-Din Hussein ibn Ali Kashif. This is a scholar who was a Sunni who wrote elegies and poetry about Imam al-Hussein and the tragedies of Karbala. So that thing made many scholars think that he was a Shia, some say he was in Taqiyya, but many people say, no, how come he was a Shia when he is known that he was a sheikh of Muturudi Sunni, which is a Shafi, Hanafi school of thought, and a very big sheikh. And then his father was also a sheikh from the same ideology. So this was adopted by the Safavid dynasty. So the Safavid dynasty played a huge role in introducing certain practices they wanted to use in order to propagate for Islam, which is given. But the problem comes when people think, oh, these practices are practices they are part of mourning for Imam Hussein. And then if you don't do these certain acts that are introduced, that are packaged and then given to us, and then we refuse to practice them, and then we are labeled as people who are not, or that our mourning is not complete. So that's when the problem is. Like whenever there's of wow for Imam Hussein, we need to mourn for Imam Hussein. Ahlul-Bayt encouraged us for a mourn for Imam Hussein. And another one, inshallah, is called Nakhl Gardani. Nakhl Gardani is carrying of a palm symbol. It's a palm shaped coffin, or what? It's something like a coffin. They carry it, and then they around it, and they say it's symbolic to carrying the coffin of Imam Hussein. That's a new tradition. It's something that is not something emphasized by Ahlul-Bayt, something that has been introduced by a culture of Iranians, or they say even it is dated from, or it's taken from the traditions of the Hindus. And then it was also something that was introduced by the Safavid dynasty in the 16th century. But there are speculations, they say it started from the Sasanian Empire, which is the empire that we spoke about, that was during the time of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And they said that's how they used to carry their kings, and then they used to parade them in the streets, and until they were taken to the last abode. And the very same tradition re bona hape in other countries, which they adopted from the same Iranian tradition of carrying a coffin. It's in Indonesia. It's called Tabwiki. It's also it's a big event in Indonesia. Our Tabwiki or Tabwiki, they talk about carrying of the coffin or carrying of these symbols and parading them in the streets. But it is said it was introduced by Iranians who were merchants with what you call a Portuguese sailors. Then they were able to introduce this type of tradition into those lands, and then they started adopting this culture, and then they turn it into their own, and then it's called Tabwiki. It's not only done by Muslims or Shias in Indonesia. It's also done by Buddhists, done by Christians, done by Hindus of Indonesia. Now, inshallah, the reason why I'm narrating all of this, inshallah, I will mention again, is that le moetlo o le horeng o la emphasize wa ke Ahlul-Bayt. And then it is also encouraged that we should mourn for Imam Hussein ka tsela e le horeng e tseba ko wena, e le horeng e tlo ba relatable to you, but with the guidance also of Ahlul-Bayt. So the guidance, we get it from Ahlul-Bayt. If anything, then we need to refer back to Ahlul-Bayt. No, we need to refer it back to Maraj. Now, Mukhuba oloring kibwaka wona ki mukhuba oloring, we need to stop it. Isantsana uthoma because already sele mukhuba oloring go adoptina rona the followers of Ahlul-Bayt, and somehow we adoptile ka tsela e oloring without questioning. And this same mukhuba o tlo fetella ho baneng ba rona. Bana ba rona ba tla be ba mona for Imam Hussein ka tsela e leng they cannot understand. And then batho ba tlo bona tsela ya ho mona for Imam Hussein e leng re nka mekhuba ya batho ba bang e tlo ba tsela e leng e foreign bathong ba bona, because Imam Hussein, mourning for Imam Hussein is a form of dawah, it's a form of revival, it's a form of revolution. So we cannot rise or any revolution in South Africa until it's the matter. I never mourn for Imam Hussein ka tsela e hantle, re ishapa ka disabole ka mo mekokotlo. Nka se kgone for ho mourn for Imam Hussein as long as we rely on foreign national ideologies of mourning for Imam Hussein and deem them as Islamic, and yet without questioning tsela tsa bona and ho hlokantshe tsela tsa bona le tsela ya Islam. Tsela ya ho mourn for Imam Hussein ke tsela e le horeng e kgethiwe for rona kaofela, and then tsela hape e le horeng e encouraged ke tsela e le horeng e tseba wena, e le horeng e tlo ba relatable to you. So inshallah, ka ho nka rata hore ke lebohe lona bo bohle ho tsama matsapa ha o mamela, inshallah la ntse ke fokola mo le mo. I hope my message was delivered correctly. If not, inshallah, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Salawat ala Muhammad wa Muhammad.
Ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. And Dr. Ja'far, I had some issue now, so didn't you the host, so I need you to make me the host again.
Give me the host.
Yeah, so Kupung gets the host. Just go to participants and then click on my name and then number make host.
All right, I'll go on the participants. We click on your name. And then we make you make a host.
Ahsant. Now I can do this. Since in Khwile, I couldn't do this. I want to now. All right. No, alhamdulillah, we thank the speaker for his talk tonight. Very enlightening and very very detailed and referenced. That is very important. Very important. There's a lot of fan mail coming in now from our fellow shuyukh. Ane no tell me that if there are any questions, please. This is the opportunity to ask, inshallah. This is the opportunity to ask your questions concerning Azadari related to today's talk, inshallah ta'ala. Bismillah, you are more than welcome to ask a question either via text or via, or you can unmute yourself and ask the question. Or it can be a comment, a remark of any sort. Allah. Or as I also usually say, it can be to seek any advice related to the topic. Allah. Bismillah. Tafaddalu, more than welcome.
Kgotso e be le lona Phuthego. Ke na le question ne to Ntate Moruti, inshallah. Hore since okay, number one, can I just say ra leboha for opening our eyes. Ha ke tsebe hore ntse re robetse hore re tsa ka mabomo because we don't have an identity within Islam. Well, ho ya ka the way re etsang dintho ka teng, e tjho hore ha rena identity as Africans. Hobane re practice foreign things to us and things that I don't know if I can say non-Islamic. And so these other people, they are justified by treating us the way they do, asking us to recite Surah Al-Fatiha to prove we are Muslims because we have adopted imikhuba and made them moyetlo. So my question is now, since Alhamdulillah, we have started producing or practicing our way of doing things. The most irritating bina and hubina ki topic attends more Islam. So I want to ask Maulana Hore, how do we move from doing things our way and keeping them halal? I hope I'm clear.
Nkazamo araba.
Tshwanetse o arabe wena vele o rayang gore tshwanetse sa.
Oh, right, right. Ati isa usually these type of topics, these type of questions, we usually throw them to Maulana Hussein Wudi Alam. The topics are how that. However, the issue of singing and music, actually music and singing, has been established by Maraj on the basis that music is it's fundamental. Any music, music they are considered as unlawful gatherings. That's one on the party, go the so usually we first it is not regarded as something considered Islamic. So now coming to singing, actually I wanted to say that in my presentation, I'll be mentioning one is that we discussed the issue of Azadari itself. Secondly, the second day we'll be discussing the issue of how do we mourn as Black people, and then thirdly, lastly, would be something Eloren will be discussing how do we go forward now that we know that how we mourn and how we should mourn according to Ahlul-Bayt, and how do we go forward from there. Now, I think the issue of music and singing
Sorry, I got and
Nikere question as Eric, I think she can rephrase it more, you know. But the way I didn't understand the controversy around the issue of singing and music itself.
And mourning.
And
how do we keep it halal?
How do we mourn?
And keep it halal, yeah.
Okay, now in summary, what I will say, especially after listening to this inspiring and enlightening talk, today, Ditlopo, is that mourning, above being halal and haram and whatnot, it's cultural. When it's cultural, it's tribal, it's personal. Above everything, it's personal. Now, so our Maraja and whatnot, how they discuss this thing, by Sheba on that note as well. But Ditlopo mentioned many references. So it's about cultural and tribal and personal, as I said. So it's not something that you do taqleed in. It's not something that you do emulation in. Of course, Islam, of course, the Maraja, our scholars are there for guide how to do these things correctly. Because Islam does not reject our cultures. This is my own words. It only guides them. Yadi, trima, and then yetza, everything halal. So, yeah, when it comes to the singing, when it comes to the chanting, when it comes to the poetry and whatnot, all of that is permissible for Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. Because it's the lyrics, it's the content, something that they touchang pilotaro. So that is what is important. If you wanna discuss in the same line what you discuss music, generally it becomes difficult because that will have now a different discussion on its own. Because what is the purpose? What is the purpose? Is it, as the Quran says, lahul hadith, and so on and so forth? So it becomes another different discussion. When it comes to poetry in honor of Ahlul-Bayt, and the way to recite it and the way to write it and so on and so forth, the answer is simple. No, this is for Ahlul-Bayt. It's more about the lyrics than it is about anything else. So this is permissible. Singing and so on. In different cultures, again, it differs. For example, in some cultures, a woman cannot sing in front of men. Most South Africa, we do not have that. We don't have that strictness when it comes to, interaction. We should be, as your fiqh thing, we should be strict when it comes to interaction. But we don't have that strictness here, mixed gatherings, for example. So maybe there a woman can recite, and maybe, who knows, maybe her voice will make us cry more than that of men. Yeah, music is another thing. And then I would advise everyone to refer to their own marja. As I said, it's a whole discussion. Every marja defines it different. Baba Angbar is more about what do the lyrics say. Baba Angbar, does it change your state of mind? Baba Angbar, no. It's a whole big discussion. With that, I refer to your marja, inshallah ta'ala. I hope Khwarabi. Whatever you are answered.
But it's fine. I get it.
Ushota guy, maybe relate.
Okay, is it safe to say, since we should refer to our marjas, hore, as long as intention and everything else more who is for that purpose, yeah, umona for Imam Hussein, then it's fine.
Yeah, you can say that if it's for Imam Hussein alayhi salam, but obviously I get what this about you. It should not. The other thing, Agudli?
Iskaba R&B.
Yeah. If you're gonna make poetry and songs for Imam Hussein alayhi salam, if speaking in a wider spectrum of music, it should become its own genre. Or this is, it's got yeah, you got the gist of it. Thank you. I see a text here about Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. I believe the person had an answer. Mamujaki. I hope or believe had an answer or a remark. And everyone else, please, you are more than welcome to ask your questions. This is the time, this is the platform. And this is a very interesting topic to discuss. Why? Obviously, it's relevant to Muharram, it's relevant to after the massacre of Ahlul-Bayt alayhim salam. But Kaur, alhamdulillah, as Muahi Council of Scholars, we were given the reins to hold the program in conjunction with Soweto Ahlul-Bayt Jamaat, inshallah, next week, Friday, 24th of September. It's a Heritage Day, Arba'een Mass Jum'ah. So all these words, they have a meaning. Heritage Day, so you come there, traditional. Obviously not being flashy because we're still mourning Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. It's going to be a mass Jum'ah. So before that, we'll hold the Arba'een program for the martyrs of Karbala. And then also have a Jum'ah, insha'Allah ta'ala. So this topic is relevant. On that day, what should we do? This is a very informative talk. I saw a hand raised, and here is a very okay. Yeah, I saw a hand raised. Bismillah, you may ask your question.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum.
Ke rata go leka go araba putsiso ene e botsisitswe ya music. So as far as music is concerned, music is not haram. So in Islamic law, there are primary rulings, there are secondary rulings. So if ever motho o tsisa ka kolobe, gore kolobe e halal or e haram na. Everybody wa itse gore kolobe e haram. It's not allowed to eat, we're not allowed to reje kolobe. Mara motho tlo botsisa question ya gore mara insulin ke kry from kolobe. I get it from the pancreas, and insulin I kry from the pancreas ya kolobe. So in that case motho wa kaira. In that case motho ka ira gore then Islamic law ya no, in this instance it's permissible. So in music, music, or is music permissible or is it forbidden? The primary ruling in music is that it is permissible. That's the general ruling in music, because at the end of the day, music is just a composition, harmonic, melodic, and rhythmic composition of sound. That is the meaning of music. Music consists of various categories or genres. So a cappella, instrumental, and then a combination of both instrumental and voice or vocal. So what makes music to be haram? This is according to our maraji. Bailon khore music o haram or music haram and halal. So haram, what makes music khore ebe haram is what the music is associated with. So if music or associated lidilo tse leng gore di haram, automatically music over haram. But if ever the music is associated lidilo tse di halal, then automatically music over halal. So it's not a question ya gore ke ne ke batla go araba that point comment no we mentioned earlier on, sister ya gore R&B ya tshwanelo ba R&B. It can be R&B if that R&B is not associated le dilo tse di leng haram. It can be jazz if that jazz song or that composition of sound is not attributed or associated le dilo tse di leng haram. If it's hip hop, it shouldn't be associated le dilo tse haram. If it's Maskandi, it shouldn't be associated with anything haram. So so all music genres are halal, on a general basis. What makes it haram, what makes that music or that song or that album for ebe haram is what it's associated with. So that's the point of music. I hope ku arabile mo. And then second question na ka utlwa sentle e ya mourning. If ku arabile umplele if aka araba ke kopa nkutsisa. Hello. Hello.
Oh, assalamu alaikum. Ke type-ile o nkarabile ke a leboha.
Oh, okay. All right.
All right. Thank you for that addition. It was a very detailed answer. Thank you for the detailed answer. Can you please, Ditlopo, here's a question. Can you please clarify what you meant by non-Islamic practices in the ceremonies of mourning?
All right. What I meant, hore go na le mekhuba e le horeng e tlhahela from outside, e tlhahelang in a form of a cultural practice, and somehow because Islam being developing in those countries and those communities, and then those cultures, they become something that represent Islam or something that's already as Islamic. So when I speak about actions that are not, or practices that are not Islamic, I'm talking about practices that they don't have reference coming from Ahlul-Bayt and Prophet and Ahlul-Bayt. So usually when we speak about anything that is Islamic, we need to refer it, or we need to source it from Quran and Ahlul-Bayt. That's what I mean.
Right. Hey, well, thank you. Okay, there's a beautiful message here. All praise is due to Allah. Thanks for the informative presentation, Sheikh. May Allah accept your effort in the service of the Imam of our time, Azadari Ta'ala Farja. A comment. One of the signs of literacy and education is the student being able to critically engage with their world. The most honorable Elijah Muhammad says, whoever dictates the diameter of your thinking controls the circumference of your act. We thank the Shuyukh for reminding us that we must investigate the source of everything we see and hear before we accept it. For example, we point to some Sunni practices as innovations made by the first three caliphs, but we forget to check for innovations in our path as well. So, alhamdulillah, this is a good road to decolonizing Islam. Fan mail. Well, thank you very much for the that was deep, man. That was deep. And it's good. It's very good that what you appreciate mostly is the presentation of the references. So that is always admirable, because unfortunately somebody can just come and say, no, this is in Islam, and then you just take it because of the color of their skin or something, but they don't present any viable argument nor any reference. That is a big problem. That is a very big problem. So we thank you for those references. Thank you very much. Okay, there's a text here as well. I think somebody's unmuted. Do you have a question? Okay. Assalamu alaikum. Sorry. Wa alaikum assalam.
Mafwana man. Leyo music my brother yo. Nenzima man. Angazi man umawulana netlopa ngizwanga kahle yabona. Mara what about amanye amamarja lawo phela bathi straight music is haram. What about bona ke? Sibabeka kaphi bona? Angazi. You understand? Because like mawuya na ku Sunni side you understand kunalamanye amahadith angazi ukuthi like bawathatha abathi ne music is one of ama-ero kaShayitani. You understand? Angazi ukuthi lawo mahadith lawa aveli na. Mara leyo music ulana linzi. Angazi man mina like nida more. You understand? Angazi. Ina.
Mawuthi unida more mashekh uzama ukuthini?
Ne manje azinto ukuyibuza yini sha. Kunamanye ama-marriage. You understand?
Yes.
Like bayitshera up inesvar music oharam uyangifrustana ukufana njengengulube uyangifrustana ingulube nasebhayibhelini like uyangifrustana like into like haram uyangifrustana so like okay shapo when come to music uyangifrustana kufana njenga last week i-topic like oyiphethe angiphikisi like uyangifrustana understand i-topic level oyiphethe last week ukuthi whatever hadith esiyithathako muthi kube i-hadith okushuthi like ihambiselana nequrani uyangifrustana okushuthi like i-hadith okushuthi like sikhathi neutari le uyangifrustana i-valid ukuthi isifari singayithatha uyangifrustana ne so manje when it comes to music uyangifrustana kushuthi yini into okushuthi like inganikeza amandla sikhathi music like is halal the way ukhuluma ngakhona because yeah sharp ngiyakuzwa that music is halal uyangifrustana but akuna like into okushuthi like fana njenga last utne into siyithatha kuQuran okushuthi like uyangifrustana ngathi nedilenge okay dilenge halal hadibera etse uyangifrustana so yini into okushuthi ngasinikeza isiqiniseko sokuthi music uhalal like uvalid with music uhalal no matter ukuthi music unjani.
All right. Okokuqala kumele sizwisise ukuthi yini music. That's the first thing we need to do. Mase sizwisisa ukuthi music yini, then we'll be able to answer that question very easily. So i-definition of music, ngaya dictionary enye nenye. Oxford, Cambridge, whatever dictionary that you can refer to, Britannica, whatever, akunamehluko. Zonke, wonke ama-definition, akhuluma ngezinto ezi-3. Yabona? The topic le ngiyazi kahle ngoba vele every time vele le question le, and then now since dala kusukela kudala vele bengilo ngiyi-research. There is 3 commonalities nge-definition of music. Number 1 is that the word sound is used in the dictionary definition. And then 3 words will be used. But it is the composition of sound through rhythm, harmony, and melody. Ukusebenzisa i-sound nge-melody, ne-rhythm, ne-harmony. So i-rhythm, ukusebenzisa ama-pattern, ne-motion, ahamba kamnandi. Melody is the same, almost the same as i-rhythm. So that is the definition of music. It is the composition of sound through rhythm or harmony and melody. So that is the definition of music. Is sound. So kunokunye wenza i-sound ngokushaya i-drum. Kunokunye wenza i-sound ngokushaya ibonda. Kunokunye wenza i-sound ngokushaya i-piano. Kunokunye wenza i-sound ngokushaya angazi i-guitar. Omunye ushaya omunye angazi kuhlukile. Omunye wenza i-voice yakhe, usebenzisa i-voice yakhe. But music is the composition of sound. You are using sound to compose rhythm and harmony and melody. So manje, if we understand the definition of music again, my question to you is this. Adhan, according to this definition that I just gave you, which I said is applicable in all dictionaries, you can just research it yourself now. What is the meaning of music? Adhan, is it music or is it not music? Because ancient music, there are 3 types of music. 1, a cappella, 2, instrument, and 3, a combination of instrument and a cappella, or instrument and vocals. So adhan, does it fit with the definition of music or not? Yes, it fits because it is sound, number 1. It is composition, number 2. It has rhythm and it has harmony and it has melody. So is adhan music? Yes, it's music. Young Todd. Recitation of Quran. Recitation of Quran.
No.
So, must figure a good idea. The Quran, recitation of Quran. Does it have rhythm? Does it have melody? Does it have harmony? And does it have composition of sound? Yes, it does have composition of sound. So now it's also music. Young Todd.
No.
So based on the following, it's safe to say Uguti music is halal. But now the issue that Amamarja that they have is with the understanding and the definition of music. So for Amamarja, what they have been informed or what they have done is that they have made a research. Music, it's example music example. So they saw music is in a certain way and it was bad. Maybe no better. Lil Wayne, Lil Wayne na bad. And then this is haram, young Todd. And whereas music consists of different elements and genres. So if you look at the views of even Ayatollah Sistani, when he speaks about music, he himself, classical music, the music was music that is composed in funerals is permissible. Ayatollah Sistani, that's what he says in his Risala. So yes, now answering your other question, when we speak about Amamarja, nombono wabo, ukubona bathini ke music. So there are Maraje who are against music completely, but music omunye nomunye. And the reason why they say all music is forbidden is based on their definition of what is music. So now this is where the topic Rina and Musiqa comes in. So that's what then you have your jurists who say that Rina is something different to music. And then you have some jurists that say music and Rina is one and the same thing. And then you'll have the third group who say, what is it? Music and Rina are both permissible. It's just the association of that music that makes it halal or haram. But by definition, if you study what is the meaning, now you shouldn't also just strictly rely on the Maraji. Yes, you must rely on their expertise in the explanation of the matter. But there are certain matters where you must make your own research and take that matter to the Marja himself. So sometimes what happens is that people take a matter and they refer to the Marja without giving the Marja a proper context of what is happening. And then the Marja will not respond, will only respond in accordance to the question that was asked. Because gunomunye, like for an example, there is a guninwatenye so yaga Ayatollah Sistani. And I mean ngifunda English, you know. So ngifunda English. I was amazed where say Sistani uyasho. But now I'm reading the translation. The translation, it says singing is haram. That's what the Risala said. It said singing is haram. Maramanja adhan is singing. Recitation of Quran is singing. So I was confused. You know what? And then when I made proper research, I understood, okay, guna definition, guna magama asebenziswayo kufiqh. And then guna magama asebenziswayo that when you translate them, the people translate them as singing. Yeah, boy. Ithi ngikhathela ngifuna ukuchubeka ngoba engibona ngathi ngizothatha isikhathi eside yabona. But angazi ukuthi ngiphendulile na.
Ya ngiphendulile mara ngisafuna ukungenelela kiyo inzima le. Ngiyangifrustane inzima ngisafuna ukungenelela kiyo. The way uthi ngithi ngiyenza ama research. Nami ngizayenza ama research inshallah.
But like I said, adhan is music.
Ngizafuna research. Dama ngisafuna ukwenza i-research inshallah
Right, inshallah. Mara kodwa akusi if ever wena ufuna ukulalela music and uyasaba ukumamela music, then it's fine, akunankinga. Ungasidima izinto ezimnandi, asinankinga thina. Mara thina abomulana siyawumamela music.
Can we please avoid the dialogue, question and answer session? Thank you, Ntate Nchinyane, for clarifying that and joining that discussion, inshallah. Thank you very much. If there is any other question, please ask, inshallah. Maybe it's under I don't know. Yo, it's almost 2 hours that have been. If there is any question pertaining to tonight's topic, you please ask. Bro Khalifa had a question here. Come on. There was a question here in the text that I had not. Okay. Assalamu alaikum. Ditlopo, I hope that the questions meant for you. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu wa maghfiratuhu wa ridwanu. Firstly, shukran for the presentation, albeit this word, I don't know how to pronounce it, although one joined late. I just want clarity on the mourning practices that were incorporated into Islam. Are they haram or bad in themselves, or helping in projecting mourning for Imam Hussein alayhi salam to the world? Okay, Aksa Khubulas in depth because he mentioned it in passing. But the Ditlopo, before what happened, the Ditlopo, you said that your topic for tonight is this, for tomorrow is that, or Thursday is something else. Please mention that because maybe that could help us. Maybe it can also help you answer this question. Bismillah. Apply the video if you don't mind.
Afwan, I say change we still are in pass.
All right.
All right. Okay. My topic would be it's categorized in three. One is that what is mourning and mourning according to Ahlul-Bayt, and the mourning, yeah, that is one. Mourning according to Ahlul-Bayt and traditions that are part of that are introduced into mourning. That is one. Two is how did we Black people mourn? And three, which is the third day, it's gonna be how do we package our mourning practice, a cultural package of our mourning practice along with mourning for Ahlul-Bayt. Yeah.
All right.
So now,
thank you very much.
Now the question, yeah, Sheikh. I never said they are haram, or they are not. I see me all right or to say. What I meant is that meetlo ila introduce you into mourning for Imam Hussein, and they were packaged and introduced to us, and then without interrogating which one is really emphasized by Ahlul-Bayt and which one is cultural or cultural practice of certain race or certain nation. Ntate Sheikh Hussein Nchinyane, cultural king mourning for Imam Hussein, it's personally, it's cultural as well. So tsela eo o tlabeng we demonstrate for mona for Imam Hussein ke tsela ya how, and then if we feel ke tsela e le reng e right, and then you etsa gore o ikatometse ho Ahlul-Bayt ke tsela ya gago. Le rena re na le tsela re le batho ba batsho tsa ho bona, then tsela eo le yona tsela e le reng ya re kgothatsa le e re atometsa ho Ahlul-Bayt, or no re atometsa ho Modimo, ene e kgothatsa batho ba hore ba hlahetse ke lefu, le rona e re kgothatsa batho ba hore re lo tshedisa. So Islam e tlile hore guide on those practices tse le reng bona batho ba batsho o batho in general ntse ba tshela ka tsona. So tsa rona we adopt them, but with the guidance of Ahlul-Bayt or the guidance of Islam or the Manhaj, inshallah. Yeah, I think in inshallah, I hope that
I believe the asker is answered. I don't know. Just send a thumbs up or a test if you are answered. Oh dear asker. And that was the question to close. Ditlopo kopa o tswalle ka dua.
inshallah hari dari ring doa eloring di khumsa di Imam Muhammad wa Allah wa qatila Imam Mahdi sallallahu ta'ala wa faraj. Bismillah. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. Allahumma kun kala bajati bil hasan. صلواتك عليه وعلى في هذه الساعة في كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا عندنا علما حتى تسكنه تمتعه فيها توحيدا برحمتك يا ارحم الراحمين. امين رب العالمين. ان الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا ايها الذين امنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. اللهم صل على محمد.
اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد في الفرج. اللهم صل على
portrait. It looks like a picture frame that has all of these young
Goodbye.
but it's actually just like a tray that you can put anything you want in it. It has a 3D depth, so if you look at it, it does look really 3D.